Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name's Matt Lehman, and I'm the streamer, and we work on a Django app. Wow, that's going over here. All right. And we build out a Django application that I'm working on. And tonight we're going to work on a report. So the app that I'm working on is for a homeschool application for my family, and then helps my spouse manage our children's schedules for the year. And there's some reports that she wants to see. So we're going to build out one of those reports. Before I get started, there's plenty of ways to keep in touch with me. You can find me on YouTube, where you might be watching this recording. I'm also streaming regularly on Twitch on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. There's a link above to my website where I do a lot of writing about Django and Python, and you can find a mailing list there. If you are enjoying the content that you're seeing, there's also a Patreon account at patreon.com/mblehman, which tends to be my handle on the internet. I do want to thank my patrons, Rupert, Abdulaziz, Patrick, Mark, and Eric. Thank you for contributing and helping me cover costs of podcast hosting and other things that I try and do for the Django community. Your contributions are really appreciated, so thank you. Okay. There's a Discord link as well below. If you want to ask me questions that don't fit into a Twitter tweet or something like that, you're welcome to do that too. And with that being said, we're going to get into the report. So what are we doing tonight? And what is this resource report? That's very generic sounding. And it is fairly generic unless we explain the details of it. Part of what my spouse requires for school is to be able to track the resources that she uses for each course that my children are enrolled in. And that resource collection is then used to prove to my local government that we are in fact schooling my children with legitimate stuff. And, it's just kind of evidence that we are doing the right thing by what the county and state requires to properly homeschool kids. So we've got resources modeled in the database, and they already exist, but she needs to be able to have a quick report that she can ideally print out and just hand over to the local government official who needs to do all the checking and validation to make sure that that's all good. So that's what we're going to build tonight. I did have a brief chat with her before the stream to talk about what that report should look like, who it should work for. I had an initial idea that I was working on earlier today, and she kind of shot some of that down, which is good. That's why you talk to your customer. And we'll see the changes that she wants, and we'll go from there. So let's get started. Let's jump into it. So I've already created a template for this, and a view and a URL, and some of that needs to change though. So let's go from that part. What's the first thing that needs to change? Well, actually, let's start with what does this look like? Where is it going to be? What's it going to show? Maybe that's a better starting point. So if you have questions, you can ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. Happy to answer those at any time. Like, the point of this is to not just work on a project, but teach you some things about what I know about Django. And hopefully, as you see me working through real code, you get something to learn. But if you're here live, you're welcome to use the chat. I just ask that you keep it civil, which most people are able to do. Okay, bringing up the app. If we take a look at it, we have this reports page here. And you can see that I've already started it. I've got this new column at the end, which I'm calling the resource report. So ultimately, I think this page will have the school year, student, grade level, and then it'll be a progress report, and there'll probably be a report card that'll go here between here. But that's not something that she needs yet. So it's not something I need to build yet. So this resource report is the thing we're going to click on, and it will take you to a page that I have copied a template from somewhere else, so it doesn't really make full sense yet. Like, none of this copy makes any sense for what we need to show, but it's where the thing will live. But the first thing that we want to change that she requested is that this report be focused on a particular student, because she has to print out a separate report for each student to report to the county. And so I have 2 children, and we need one for each. My initial plan was to just make a resource report that took the entire school year and took every grade level and every course resource and put it on one master thing. But she expressed to me that would not be how she'd need to use it. So we're going to tweak this. And in fact, it actually kind of makes it more like this report, which does factor in the student, because a progress report can only be about a particular student. So the first thing we need to change is we need to go to the report URLs where this thing is defined, and we need to change it to look like this format up here, where I am adding extra data in, like so. And so we now have a student UUID that the report view will expect. The change does mean that we also broke the actual page. So if we refresh this thing, this will fail because I didn't pass in enough information to the reverse that is existing in the template. And I guess it's not a reverse, excuse me, it's a URL call. So we need to modify the template too before we can actually click through. But the data is already in that index, so that's not a problem. So let's go back to the resource report. Nope, excuse me, wrong one. The reports index page where I have this thing defined. And you can see it's going to follow the same format that's in the report's progress URL, where it's taking this enrollment student UUID as extra data that is missing. So we're going to add that right here. And by adding that, now our URL should work properly. And I don't know how well you can see it. If you can look at the bottom of my screen, I see reports, resources, and then a long UUID followed by student, followed by another UUID. So the first UUID is for the school, and the second one is for the student. So we now have the data that we want in here. And I think the way that I'm going to do this tonight is not to do a test-driven development approach. I'm actually just going to put the context in the data, and then we'll backfill with some tests to get good coverage on the actual view. Because a lot of this is actually very similar to what is in the progress report, with a little bit more. What is needed here? So we have, how did I go about this? The progress report was getting grades and displaying all of the graded activity, which is not quite what we need. What we need is the enrollment. So the enrollment will have, we'll look up the UUID. Okay. So there's a lot going on in that query. We'll break that down. First, let's paste it in here and we'll talk about it. Because this is an authenticated view, we have the login required mix-in. So by the time we get this user, it will never be an anonymous user. It's going to be an actual authenticated user, which is a good thing. And then we want to get an enrollment record. If you've not watched the stream before, an enrollment record is the mapping that connects a student to a grade level for a school year. So when we get the enrollment, we also want to get the student record because we're going to want to display that in the context. And we're going to want to display the grade level that they are part of. And we probably want to display the school year that they are a part of as well. And you can see, actually, I'll keep pulling out. All of these things are going to be useful chunks that we're going to have in the context. So I'm going to steal them from this view as well. It's probably a sign that I need to refactor some things because these report views might have common data that gets used across a lot of these. But I'm going to go once with the a rule that I like to follow sometimes, which I don't know if I heard this somewhere officially, but it's something like once, twice, refactor, which says that when you're thinking about making code common, it's okay to leave a little bit of duplication in it first so that you're getting learnings about it. And then if I see this pattern again for a third time, like on another view, like if I get to the report card and I need all the same information, which is likely, then what I can do is I can extract some of this common logic and put that into a separate place so that these views get simpler. But for the time being, I'm going to just copy this as this. This is the twice part of this, and we'll just take it at face value that, we can clean this up later. So looking at this, and then some of these to-dos are wrong. So we have the school, we have the grade level, and we have we don't have the school, we have the school year and the grade level, and we have the student, which I didn't even include in this list of to-dos. So the other thing that we need is this is where we diverge from this progress report. So in the progress report, we're getting all the grades. The grades are the list of things that the students care about, or the students have done, and that's not what this report needs to show. Instead, this report needs to show course resources, which is a model that is in the Courses app. So it should be, here it is at the bottom. You can see that it's a model that has a foreign key to a course. And so what we need to do when we're fetching all of the courses, all of the course resources, is I want to order them by course, probably, and then probably by two things, by course and by title, so that we group them logically, and we can then in the template redisplay them in a way that we desire. I might save off on that order by initially though. So the course, how do we get the right list of courses? That's a good first question. We really want all of the course resources that are in the set of courses. So the grade level is already something that we have. And because there's a many-to-many relationship between grade level and course, we need to do a separate query on the courses to get those. And I think we're just going to need the course IDs. Is that true? I'm thinking through this. There might be let's take the what seems like it might be a naive approach and see if it works. So let's try and put into the context, we're going to call this just resources. And it's the thing that we'll eventually want to display. And the resources will be what? They'll be like this, a filter of on-course resource, but the filter will not be on student because it doesn't matter which student it is. It's all about all the course resources. So it's roughly going to be this. It's going to be course resource objects filter. And then we want to look at the course, as that's the connection to go to. And this is where I'm not sure if this will work or not, but I'm going to try it. We're going to go through the many-to-many field, which is the grade levels. And we'll say a list and provide the enrollment grade level object. So I think that'll do what we want. Hopefully. And we need to include that model. So that's in the Courses app. So let's put that in as well. All right. So now we should, in theory, have the course resources that are there. And I think we're going to want to display courses as well. So let's say select related course as part of that process, so that we're not doing, because we're going to loop through these, and if we don't do a select related in the course, it's going to query for a course on every single resource. That would be really bad because there's potentially going to be a lot of them. So now we should have that, and I think that gets those two to-dos out of the way. And how are we going to see this now? Let's go through and just do a loop in the template and see if we can get out the course resource. As you can see, the course resource has a title and details, so we'll just do a simple loop that gets the title out of that. Let's come back into the resource report, and then we'll say, what will we say? Initially it'll be for resource in resources. And we're going to discover very quickly if I'm way off base on, oh goodness, on how I did that query or not. So we want to see a resource title. And I think I have some resources in my test data. Not a lot probably, but enough to see if this is working at all. So none of that bottom stuff is going to execute. Well, I guess the else clause will, but now we can go to here and we can click on the resource report for Mark Lehman, and it didn't work. Field ID expected a number but got grade level. Wow, that's a funky one. Maybe I can give it the ID instead. Let's try that. Oh. You know what I did? I said I need to do that probably. Yeah, because it's the grade levels is a many to many, so it needs to do an inquiry to say like it could be any of these, and that's why I give it a list when I put it on the other side there. So I think I just did that wrong. Hey, look at that. So ignore this stuff down here. This is correct. Like I was doing, some of this is testing before I had this all right, so that's why you see some weird formatting here. But these course resources, although this looks ugly with what the titles are, they are correct, which is good news. So the next thing we want to do is to do something similar to what is here. This is a table, and we're going to keep most of the stuff very similar. So actually, let's do this. For the moment, just so we can see like what's part of the template and what's not, let's comment this out. Let's take our for loop and drop it in here, and we'll change this from if grades to if resources, because I copied this from the other report, so that's why it had grades. And I realize now that the school year representation doesn't put school year, it just puts the actual year. So we need to extend the title to say school year. Otherwise it just says a year, which doesn't make as much sense. All right, so the empty state went away, which is what the thing was at the bottom. And now we're getting our list here, which is good. I think we'll probably do some of this regroup stuff again. And that's going to be, I'm going to see if we can do it in a more, well, let me think on this. We have, okay, I think I've got it. So a student can only be in a single grade level. So really, let's extend this. I think this is actually the wrong title. Let's go back to the progress report, and notice this progress report is actually what we want, or the title for it, because it has the student, it has the grade level, and it has the school year. And we just want to change the word progress to resource. Similarly, we'll do the same thing here. Because it's already got all the context data that we care about, this was already set up nicely in the other report, and this will bring them closer together in their look and feel. Now, I don't need to worry about displaying the grade level lower in the body, so I just need to display the courses. So we want to display the courses. And how do we want to do that? let's see how much of this we can get away with. So we're going to use the regroup template tag. Django default template tags. Oh, no, sorry. Django built-in template tags. That's a query that you can search for. It takes you right to the template tag index, and there's one in here called regroup. And what regroup does is it takes a list and it kind of turns it into a different data structure that you can iterate over differently, frankly, in a more convenient way. So you can see that this one is taking a list and it's got some city names of countries from various countries in the world. And it's by regrouping it on country, for example, it does this kind of ordering. So you do it in this syntax of you take the list thing and you say by what attribute you want to do, and then you use the as word to give it something in the template context, and then you can iterate on that thing. And the thing it returns is dictionary-like, if I recall correctly, or close enough that we can probably follow a very similar pattern to what's here with the commented out chunk of code. So let's take that commented out chunk of code and uncomment it. And we're going to delete this little sample that we had just to see this. And I want to regroup the resources. And I want to regroup them by what is this? Graded work, course task, course. I think I just want to regroup them by course. And I'm going to say the course list can be still fine. Then we have course and resources. And then do resource and resources. And then we are going to change what's in here to resource title and resource description, just to start. And we'll change this text to title and change that to description. And then course is going to be there. Okay. So let's see how that comes out. It didn't. All right. Somewhere along here I messed up. It's not single resources, or single resources, resources. Great. All right, this formatting is definitely not what we need. The previous report was showing a chunk of a graded work and then a number here. So that's all it had to show, which is why this is all jammed up over here. But what we actually need to show is the title still, and then we need to give it a lot of room for the description. And we'd probably need to actually do a bit of extra work on the description, because a description is a text field, so it can show line breaks and things like that. So we need to fix that up. So let's change this from 5/6 and 1/6 to maybe 2 and 4. And yes, I know that reduces down to 1/3 and 2/3, but keeping to the 6th is just easier for a grid system in this context. And before I screw up the progress report, let's close that. So that fixed. What did that fix? Oh, there's no description in here, so you can't actually tell that it fixed the rows here, but it did, because the title is off. So let's change that to 2 and 4. to match up with the rows. Okay, so now we need to go into one of these to actually look at it and change it to something meaningful. So let's go into a school year and come into reading 2, which actually has some of these resources, which are at the bottom. Oh, it does have a description. I must have typed that wrong then. Or it's details, not description. Okay. Details. Okay. There we go. And we are going to want to put in one that has more text, and so that the report comes out better. Details with line breaks. Do they show? If I did it right, it should show on that reading page too. Yep, it shows on this reading page in this format. And if we come over here, you can see it's not showing. So there is a filter that you can pass called line breaks BR, and now our thing is showing appropriately. So I think that's actually all of the report that's really needed, which is cool. Wondering if there's more to do than this. So we have this ability to go to reports. I'm trying to think, like, some of these other pages, if you look at them, there are ways to access different views here. So I can go to a particular school year or look at all the school years. But on here, if I go to a particular report, it just says the report, here's a bunch of data, and that's it. So I'm wondering if, like, I should have a breadcrumb kind of thing here to say reports and then an arrow. Maybe later, but I'm not convinced right now that that's really needed. So that's all this report really needs to be. It needs to be something that she can print and then be able to hand off to somebody. So I guess we could take a quick look at it, the print preview, and see if that looks okay. If there's anything that we would need to tweak. My spouse uses Chrome, and I'm really not dealing with, like, printing is hard enough as is. So I'm just going to take a look at the print preview in Chrome, because actually Chrome does a better job of showing those previews anyway. So we'll paste in here. This is a test account that we're going to use. Whoops. All right, so let's refresh this. So this is what she will see. Although she's got her screen's wider than that, so it'll be a good normal size screen. And then on a print preview, let's see if it looks okay. Scale is down really low. So at 100%, it gives a nice big message across the top and has each course and a nice formatted thing and looks good. So I don't think there's anything that we need to modify for the print version of this. That's nice. Okay. Where does that leave us? What do we need to do still? I think that means that the template is... No, template's not done. Let's come and do the empty state while we're in here, so that I don't have to come back to this template again for a long time. So I'm going to temporarily say if not resources, so that when we refresh this thing, it'll show this version of it. And I'm going to keep this image. It's fine. It's a totally appropriate image to use. what I'm going to do is change the copy over here because that doesn't make sense. And we'll change it to be no course resources. And then we'll say it's not really about the students, it's about the grade level. So we'll say the courses for grade level have no associated resources yet. As soon as there are some resources, they will appear on this report. The courses for second grade have no associated resources yet. As soon as there are some resources, that seems extra unnecessary to say. As soon as resources exist, I don't know. It'll work. It's not the best copy, not by a long shot, but it gets the message across. So now let's go remove that not. But for this student, there are some resources. I wonder if the other one has any or not. Okay, they're in a shared course. They're both in a science course that I made and put together for them. So they both have this resource. All right, but we don't need to prove that it works for the not case. We saw it, and I know how Boolean logic works. So by having the not versus having it is what we want. So I feel good about what's here. I wonder if we want to change the image. Do I care enough? Let's go look at what's on Undraw. Let's search for resource. I don't know if it's going to find anything. Those don't. That's a terrible word to search for. What are resources? They're resources. What's another way to think about that? Like what's a concept that might help? Shopping? Because these are things you could have and use that you'd want to buy, or like books you might consider. Books might be another better word. That looks kind of goofy though. Book lover. I don't know. I don't think I need to change it. It's fine. This is it. What I do like about that image that was there. Is it here somewhere? Is that it shows a graph, and I feel like this section about reports is all about graphs, and so if they share a common image for now, because I don't have another one, then at least they'll be thematically pulled together. Okay, so what do we have? We've got everything that we need. It's got the appropriate filtering to make sure that it's only the user's school. That's what's in here. That's what's coming from this other area, so that's good. And so if right out of the gate, if someone is trying to access this page and the enrollment, the user is not part of someone's school, they'll get a 404. So that's the protection to make sure that somebody's allowed to look at this proper data. So the rest of this is all derivative of the enrollment, so I don't feel like I need to do extra checking on course resource, for example. So there's some guards there. We are doing the proper selecting on the student, the grade level, and the school year, because we're putting all of those pieces in the context. And then we're doing another one on the resources and the course. So I feel like the number of queries is probably optimal. But just to confirm, let's bring up the debug toolbar and then return to the page and go back to the reports. I don't know why that took so long, because it's only 3 queries. It's tiny. Turn to here. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get any better than this. Five queries. What's in here? And one of them's the session. One of them's the session. One of them's the user. One of them is the query for the school. And then we've got the 2 bundled queries that are getting all of that other information. So this page is about as tuned as it's going to get. So that's really nice. Yeah, I just feel good about it. Okay, time to write some tests for this thing. The nice part is the tests are going to be pretty easy. They're going to be largely a copy of the progress report tests, I think. Let's go to the schools test views file. And where's the progress report test? I came to the wrong area, that's why. Schools test views. Progress report. And I think I'm going to steal initially like all of these tests and just rework what I find. It's the resource report view, and we're going to change it to resource. Yeah, I think I used the singular. That test passes because it's just testing authentication. And we're going to change this, and we're going to change this, and we're going to change this, although this last test is going to require more cleanup. The get should be, all of these things should be the same because those I copied from the other view, so this test should pass. And this should also pass. It should 404 when it's not a user, the user's school doesn't match the enrollment. So I would expect that to pass. And that gets us down to this last view, which is the one we care about. And we want, what is it we want? This one is just, it's really, what is it about? It's about querying. I think it's actually an unnecessary test. I think what I really need to do is go up to the get test and put in a course resource and make sure that's in the context. I think that's what I really am looking for. So let's delete this test, because why have more tests than you need? Although I might want to get, no, I don't need that stuff. The other bit that we want is what? We want, we need to make a course. In order to make a course that matches this stuff, we need to have a grade that is in the school year. And there's already a grade level created by the enrollment, so we can use that. So we'll say what? We could probably actually do this directly. Let's say a resource, and we have a course resource factory, and we're going to say course, then grade levels, and it's going to equal the enrollment grade level. And by doing that, we've now got a resource that's available, although we need to bring in the factory. That's going to come from course resource factory. And we need to assert that is what we want. So the last assertion that I'm going to put is to get the context, and it's going to be like so. This is going to be a query set, so we're going to wrap this in a list to evaluate it, so that when we do this last check here, is it equal to this resource, then they should match up. Oh, shoot. Course, got an unexpected keyword argument grade levels. Did I miss an underscore? I think I did. No. Okay, what did I do? Might not be able to make a course this way. All right, fine. I think I know, because I know they've done this elsewhere. So there should be like a course factory that's going to show this. I guess Factory Boy, it's one level of magic too far because it's a many-to-many field. So we'll use a course factory here, and then we will change the course resource to be equal to the course directly. I think that should do what we want. And then I guess we need to use it from the enrollment. All right, nice. I think now that we've done that, we'll have all of this going. Presumably with 100% coverage. Cool. And I also have a MyPy checker, and all the MyPy stuff looks good. Excellent. So we're going to add it to Git. So that's git add all is my shortcut there. And git commit. And we'll say add resource report, which fixes number what? 162. I'll push that up. And so because I ran all the tests and I've got 100% coverage, I feel confident deploying. That's the nice part about, oh well, it's the one saving grace because I'm doing this project alone. So I have to have confidence in what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do a deploy right now. And I'm letting Heroku get the code, and it's going to put everything out and put it on the real site. Although I won't be able to show you anything because I don't actually have any data on my own account on the site, but it'll be available for my spouse. While that's deploying, let's talk about what we can do next. There's a bunch of options that we can pursue. And I'm at a stage, I think at this point, where I think I've delivered most of what my spouse needs for now until she reports about other things. So our family runs our academic years on the calendar year. So she is currently planning for the next school year, which will start for us in 2021. So at this stage, she's not actively using the app, but she is putting data in. And she's given me information about things to fix with that. And I've largely fixed them to her satisfaction, which is really great. But because she's not using it yet, and using the weekly schedule and all these other things, I don't want to build too much speculatively. And you can see I've closed a lot of these issues, and we're getting down to a pretty small list of, these are a couple concepts that she was talking about, but she's not even convinced she needs that right away. So I think I might want to get back to onboarding, which had started quite a while ago, but I had gone off and done a bunch of other things in that time frame, and it probably needs some love, frankly. So in fact, let's take a look at where the state of it today. With that deploy is done, which is great. And we can start up the server. And we can come back up here to the app. And we'll go to Start. So this is the page that users will reach when they're signing up for the first time. And you can see I have stuff in here that's like placeholders and things. So there's some polish that needs to happen. And we're going to complete this. So the idea behind the onboarding process is the user logs in. They get presented with this special view. They can click around and go do other things. But if they haven't gone through all of these steps, this bar, I'm ideally planning to have it persist across all of the views until they've completed their final task. And then that way they can jump back into the onboarding at any point, and when they're finally done with the onboarding, then they will no longer have this bar, and they'll just be in the app and ready to go. We had worked through a bunch of these steps and have created certain parts along the way. You can see my test data already has some of these filled in, but I think we were at this step. We had not finished the adding a course yet. So if I click this, it has the same form as the grade level, even though that doesn't really make sense. So we need to finish that off, and I think that's the stage where we're at with the issues. Is this issue 70 here? Like you can see, I've done 100 issues between that and the last time we did onboarding. So that was a long time ago, and even I started onboarding all the way back in March, and we're now in late September. So it's been a while since we did this. So the onboarding flow has stuff that needs to be cleaned up and assessed. Like I need to go through this issue and figure out what parts are done. So that is a process that I want to polish and get working, because ultimately my plan for this is get everything going, get everything smooth, and give my spouse more time to use the app. And she's going to have months to use it, frankly, to get everything in. And then even when the school year starts next year, I want her to have a month or two to go through that and say, you know what, now that we're doing this for real, this doesn't work right here, or this is terrible, or whatever. And then I would hope to go through a round of fixes on that to really make it work for her. And once I'm fairly satisfied that it's working for her and her needs, then my plan is to solicit different homeschoolers, reach out to various communities, and see if other people are willing to try it. But in order to let those people have a good experience, because they don't live in my house, there at least needs to be a decent onboarding to get them started, to explain this all to them, because either I can interview them and like walk them through it myself, or I can start with my onboarding flow and watch their experience and watch how it goes for them, to start to know if I'm actually getting the right fit for actual users. So that means that the onboarding needs to be present before I can have anybody else join. So that's a project that I'm planning to work on. There's also a bunch of stuff that is not even close to ready. Like if we go and look at the root view of this thing, it is a blank placeholder. So if you were to visit this site, which you can't really right now because it's on like a really obscure Heroku name, but if you found it, which you can probably find it if you're looking closely enough at any of the videos, then and visited the root, you would see something really boring. So we need like a marketing page here with a different, probably a different kind of template, some different fancy copy to show what this site is about, and start to build the story around like what is this product and what's it going to look like. So that's another future project we can do as well. But I don't think I want to bite off any of that tonight. So I think that's where we're going to end it for this evening. We built out the report. We looked at some template stuff. We talked about the regroup tag, which is really handy if you've got a list. If you're doing Django templates, that's a good one to keep in mind. I hadn't really used it much in the past, but it's so powerful that to like structure stuff differently and not have to do that stuff in a view, to do that dictionary manipulation or object manipulation is a really nice thing. And then we wrote some tests to polish it all off. So I hope you were able to learn something tonight. If you found this valuable, give me a like, thumbs up, or whatever, if you're on Twitch or on YouTube. And I will try and be back next week, and we'll continue on. We'll probably come to this onboarding stuff and get back into it and figure it out. But that's about all I've got tonight. So thank you very much for joining in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.